Welcome to the Laughing Tavern in our series Critical Breakdown, where we dive into each episode of Critical Role Campaign 4. This week's episode, Episode 3, The Snipping of Shears. Very important title, as all Critical Role titles are, but this one, even more so. Critical Breakdown is a series where we look at the episode, we talk about what we liked and didn't like, things Brennan did and didn't do that we liked or didn't like. Same with the players, any lore and any theories we have for going forward. Without further ado, let's dive into Critical Breakdown. I've got to say it, even though you probably already know, but spoilers ahead as we are discussing the episode in depth. If you have not seen episode 3, The Snipping of Shears, go watch it and then come back to here, please. I still am trying to catch up from a medical issue, so I'm still an episode behind. I have not seen any content discussing episode 4 or any spoilers for it. So, any thoughts and opinions I have are solely based off of the first 3 episodes. That's it. If you've watched the first 2, you're going to see a change in how the information from the episode is presented. In the first 2, we talked about lore, then Brennan, then the players, then ended with any theories going forward. Now we're going to switch it up. We're going to actually discuss the episode in order of how it happens. So if I have a theory or a cool moment, it's going to be presented in order. Let us know in the comments which format you prefer. Do you prefer the old format or do you prefer the new? We want to present things to you in the way that you want to see them, so let us know. The episode opens at the Halavar estate. Taor is being brought on to work with Wikander. He's given a bag of coin and told to go to the Mercanart Courtier to get clothing more suitable for his new position, as well as displaying the logo of the Candescent Creed. Taor meets Wikander's uncle, Sir Felonius, and his 2 dogs, Wrath and Judgment. I love Brennan's NPCs, especially guys like this that are people in power. I love when Brennan has that voice about when that person's in power. He's got that controlling, loud voice. And Felonius and his dogs are no exception. Plus, he does something cool with the dogs. Let's check it out.
I am Sir Felonius Halavar. These are my dogs, Wrath and Judgment. I can't tell which one is which, but then again, when it comes to Wrath and Judgment, who can?
Indeed. Both beautiful companions.
You see that one of them sort of snarls, and it has a dull glow from the back of the dog's throat. You hear a sort of faint humming from its vocal cords, almost like it can't stop whining. And this whining is sort of beautiful, ethereal, almost angelic.
Such a beautiful noise they make. I've never heard the like.
Oh, yes. They can't stop singing, these dogs.
Singing?
The song confuses spellcasters. They're good dogs.
Man, I love this idea. I know we talked about it last episode with the dogs that were protecting the basement of Halavar estate. But this time, having dogs that their whine and their bark can affect the environment they are in. They can affect especially casters. Maybe the casters would have to roll wisdom saves to see if they succeed in order to cast a leveled spell or a level spell higher than 3, say. That's something very cool that you can do that adds something to the environment that the players have to overcome, but it doesn't actually do damage to them. It makes the players have to change up how they go about that combat. Do they try to kill the dogs in this case? Do they just worry about cantrips and lower level spells if that's how you work it? But it's such a great idea, I'm definitely stealing this one. We move on to Wikander and Tyranny talking with Wick's grandmother. Big lore drops in this section. A lot of lore. We learn that House Halavar worshipped Tansel, the god of the sun. And they were hunted and harassed during the Shapers' War for supporting the god. After the war, she found the celestial Ethian. She ingested his blood and made a wish to have a child, Wikander's father. Throughout the history of House Halavar, they needed somebody to be the face, the public presenting person that would be the religious, bowing to the creeds, etc., and that was deemed to be Wikander. Wikander's mother was the one who really put it into his head. Needless to say, Wikander's grandmother was not too happy about this because Wikander lived by those creeds. He would constantly be in her ear, especially about theodicy, saying our creed says we should show mercy, etc. She got tired of it, and that's one reason why he was brought into the fold and shown the truth of House Halavar. Wow, that's some deep lore drops there, and I love how that worked with Sam's backstory. I'm not sure how much of this is Brennan and how much of this was Sam, but I love it. I just love the whole idea of the people being evil, but the one person doesn't know this. And it seemed later on in the episode, everybody knows there's something off with House Halavar, except for Wikander. He's the only one who doesn't know. Even the demons know. And we come to find out the demons are under contract to House Halavar to get souls. So tyranny doesn't work for Wikander, she works for House Halavar. We also learn that Wikander once loved a commoner, but is now in an arranged marriage to House D'Antonios. House D'Antonios has a vineyard. What they grow at the vineyard produces an alchemical element that would allow House Halavar to dilute the filament and spread it easier and farther. So this marriage is a marriage of convenience for House Halavar. Wick also asks about Teor and is informed that the family's taking care of it by sending him to the Mercanot Courier, and Terry knows what this means. Wikander, being the innocent, naive person that he is, does not realize what this actually means, that this is how House Halavar handles taking care of people. It's nice that Sam is playing his character very naive. We also learn about Sam, because of the way the grandfather and his grandmother were, that he is definitely a sorcerer now. It's in his blood. So it is not a warlock, which, like I initially thought, he is a sorcerer. We then cut back to Murray in the Penteveral talking to her dean that was being fired. Lord Primus Taconis comes in looking for his son Octus, who's been at the school. Little does he know that Octus has actually been gone for 6 months. Murray goes toe-to-toe with him. Murray's got a mouth on her, and Lord Primus tries to curse her. She manages to succeed this and fight off the curse, but it's still mouthy, and Lord Taconis actually threatens to kill her. The dean gets her to leave, and as she's leaving, she overhears the Lord Primus tell the dean to fire her. The dean starts to agree, and Brennan has her make an insight roll, which, let's see what happens there.
Give me insight if you want.
Fuck me on my fuck me, fuck you die, so it's a 1.
Hey, fans of this channel know what dice Marissa rolled. It's the fuck me, fuck you dice from our partner Only Crits. Speaking of Only Crits, they're currently running a Kickstarter with the folks from Pack Tactics to bring you dice with kobolds and gators inside of them. You can get full sets of dice, chunky D20s, inspiration coins, and even adventures. So head on over to the link in the description. Back them on Kickstarter. They're already fully funded at the time of recording. And also, if you want some more dice and see what else they got, and to get the Fuck Me, Fuck You dice, head to the link for Only Crits in the description. Enter the code MesoCrits at checkout for 10% off your order. Thank you, Only Crits, as always, for being a wonderful partner and sponsor of our videos. We cut back to Thimble, Cadigan, and Octus at the tavern with the Crow Keepers, and we finally get our first combat of the campaign, 3 sessions in. That's amazing. Well done by Brennan. That's not easy to do in a combat-based system like D&E. So more power for him for holding off on combats, and to the players for avoiding some, I'm assuming. We pick up where we left off, with one of the Crow Keepers trying to capture Thimble in a burlap bag. Initiatives rolled. The fight begins. And the way Cadigan, Thimble, and Octus are rolling makes you think Will Wheaton had to be in the building somewhere. Man, they were just rolling bad. Thankfully, nobody was hurt yet. Cadigan got punched a couple times, and that was it. But the fight wasn't looking good. Anything they tried to do was not working. That is, until Valus came busting through the window. and the dice began to turn in their favor, especially when Brennan gave Ashley advantage because of flanking. Dungeon Masters, how do you handle advantage at your tables? In 2014, it was an optional rule, but in 2024, it doesn't exist. You do not get advantage from flanking, even as an optional rule. They got rid of it because there's so many other ways to get advantage. Well, my table, we do a +2. At some of the tables I play in the most recent tables, it's always a +2. When you have a table full of tactical players and very experienced players, giving advantage for flanking can really turn the tide in favor of the players easily, because now they're fishing for crits. By giving them a +2, it gives them that little bit of a bump from having an enemy in between two players, right? But it's not fishing for crits. So I think it works better. I like the +2 better than advantage. I know, even as a player, I would love to roll with advantage, but that +2 definitely helps, because I don't know how many times I've actually hit somebody when I should have missed. Let us know in the comments how you do flanking at your tables. Advantage, +2, or something else. Thimble eventually does end up in a burlap sack, and as Valus hits the Crow Keeper with her censure, Brennan gives her an option.
You hit this guy for 13 points of damage, and he flies to the ground unconscious. So, Valus, you leap forward, bam, the bag flies open. Thimble, you tumble out onto the ground as this Crow Keeper goes down and is unconscious. I would ask this, Valus, are you...
And his dick's out because he took his pants off.
Are you striking to kill in this moment, or just striking to wound?
To kill.
Yeah, hell yeah. You leap up. This guy's got Thimble in a bag. You head to the side, and these sort of city thieves and pickpockets watch as an ancient elven warrior who beheld the death of the last god slashes the throat open of one of their compatriots, and he hits the ground dead.
I love this, and I'm not sure if most players or dungeon masters know that this is an option. Just because an NPC drops to 0, that doesn't mean the NPC has to die. A player can do non-lethal damage to keep them unconscious. Say they want to question them. It's a great thing to do, but you've got to make sure your players understand that they can do this. They just have to specify it either before they roll or before they roll their damage, that what type of damage type they want to do. If you're a dungeon master and the player and the NPC's close to 0, and the fight looks like this one, where there wasn't actually much happening in terms of HP being lost, right? It was just a lot of control. Maybe give your players the option so that the fight can go a different way. Not all combats in D&D have to end with everything dead on the battlefield. It can end with surrender. It can end with interrogation of an NPC. It can end with the PCs being captured. So use this. It is a great little feature that should be more prevalent in D&D games than it actually is. Also, during this combat, because it is the first combat in the campaign, when the players cast spells or use special abilities, Brennan has them describe what the spell looks like. What does Valus's Hunter's Mark look like? What does Thimble's Fairy Fire look like? This is great, and I try to do this at my table. I forget sometimes. When you do this, you make the players think about their characters at a different level. What does the Hunter's Mark look like? What does Hex look like? They can tweak those spells flavor-wise to be more unique for the player and their backstory and their experience. They can turn something that should be bright and cheery into something dark and necrotic because that fits their character. This is a great thing you need to do as Dungeon Masters. Let your players describe what things look like, not just their houses, but their spells and abilities as well. The combat comes to an end, mainly because Valus is very strong and tough, and when she tells the Crow Keepers to run, they run. All except for one that they keep behind and interrogate. This one they learn that Casimir was skimming from the Crow Keepers. He had his own side jobs, but wasn't paying the Crow Keepers their cut. So he made it onto the gibbet, a list of people who owed the Crow Keepers. Then one day he came in, paid off what he owed in full, and actually showed them a deed to some stronghold in Gormley. When that happened, Sid, Tayor's brother, came busting in, grabbed that deed, and took off, and Casimir followed them. They left the city. They don't know where they went. But also, the Crow Keepers will not seek retribution against the party because they know, one, they're outmatched, and two, this was about something that Casimir did. So they know the party will get Casimir, so there's no point in actually making enemies of the party. However, later on we learn that the Crow Keepers do describe Valus to the Revolutionary Guard when they're out doing their patrols because people were killed. So it did get on notice of the Revolutionary Guard. We finally get to see the amphitheater, the hallowed round that was given to Hal. Come to find out, it was actually a place where the people of the city would go and pay tribute to the god of war, Azra. And it was actually forbidden to enter this amphitheater since the time of the Shapers' War. That is until it was deeded to Hal, and they have begun rebuilding it, removing some of the iconography to the god of war, building a concession stand, etc., that kind of stuff. So it's a work in progress, and Hal has a whole bunch of people working on it. We also see that Bolaire brings the paints that was given to him by Thiazi to give to Hal. These paints, while not magical per se themselves, do give off illusion and conjuration type magic. So weren't exactly clear if they just absorbed a little bit or what, but I think there's a lot more to come for these. We also get a great line from Liam, one of many that Liam always gives us. Once we came here to celebrate a god, we now come to celebrate each other. I just love that. I know I've gone on about Liam many times over these 3 episodes. He's just an amazing player when it comes to backstory and interaction with the other players. And this line just shows that Liam is thinking outside of just his character. He's thinking of the world and the effect that the players and their backstories have on the world around them. It's just awesome. I love it. And as a player, try to do that as best you can. Talk to the DM. Learn about the world so that maybe you can work some stuff into your backstory and into what you do at the table to help make your character more rounded and more fleshed out. Also, at many points in this episode, and the previous episodes of course, we get something I wish all players did. We get to see how the other players act when Brennan's having a one-on-one with a player, 2 players are having moments with each other. The other players at the table are engaged, they're watching, they're not talking, they're not having side conversations. They are engaged in a moment and reacting to that moment, but letting the player have their moment. They also do this when Brennan is talking, when Brennan is doing a lore dump, or an NPC is having a monologue. You can, as a player, interrupt a monologue from the BBEG. It's classic, right? But sometimes you want to let the DM have their moment too. Let them tell you the story. Let them fill out the world. If you're jumping in with silliness and craziness, which is fine, Dungeons & Dragons is famous for it, but sometimes you got to read the table, read the moment. There are moments to jump in, and there are moments not to. And yes, these guys are all professionals, so they've been really trained on how to wait and observe and just bide your time for your moment because you know it will come. But just because they're professionals doesn't mean you can't do this too. You just have to have that self-control and realize that not every moment requires a joke. Not every moment needs you to comment on it. You can sit back, let the player or their dungeon master have their 3-4 minutes because you'll get yours too. Taylor arrives at the Mercanard Courtier, and the incense in the air, the scent is called Sapphire Orchid. It reminds him of a 9-pointed star burned onto a battlefield. Once the Taylors see that the incandescent creed sent him, Taylor makes a wisdom save at disadvantage due to the incense. I love this idea, having stuff in the environment, just like I mentioned the dogs before, but having sights and smells that affect the players, good and bad, is a great thing to have. Use the environment. The players can't counterspell incense when they walk into a room. It's already there. The effect is instant. Have them make a wisdom save, a con save, whatever. But you can also do this for things that will bolster the players. That smell of baked cookies reminds them of a happier time. Roll at advantage for something, right? So it doesn't have to be just for the bad things. It could be for the good. But Taylor rolls a disadvantage, and it does not go well. Last thing we see of Taylor is him being led to the back room, and one of the Taylors, their twin brothers, asking for his shears. And that's where we cut the scene. Awesome. I love ending on a cliffhanger. I keep talking about it over and over again. It's great, especially when you're bouncing party to party, part of the group to other part of the group. End on a cliffhanger so that those players are anxiously on the edge of their seat waiting for their turn to come back as you spend the next 10, 15 minutes with the other group. Those players who are waiting, they're not going to do anything. They're going to be waiting to see what happened. The players getting moved in the back. What's going to happen to them? It's awesome, and that's how you bounce group to group and make sure everybody stays in the game. Wickander and Tyranny arrive at the Mercanor Courtier, hoping to retrieve Taylor. When they walk in, Tyranny announces Wickander and says they are here to retrieve Taylor. He was sent by a mistake. And a little bit of back and forth, and Brennan asks for a deception check from Tyranny against the Taylor's insight. And Brennan rolls in the open.
Understand. We have orders from up top to fetch our guest and deal with him ourselves.
What she said.
Great. I'm going to need a deception check. And it's going to be opposed.
Come on, this is it. This is it.
I'm going to
roll it somewhere else.
I'm going to roll this. I'm going to roll this in front of the board. And it's going to, I'm going to add a +4 to it. That is a 14 + 4 for an 18.
15 + 7.
Brennan rolls in the open more than any DM I've seen. That uses a DM screen, of course. He does this for all important rolls. I love this, especially if he does it sparingly, so that when he rolls in the open, or if you do this at your table and you roll in the open, the players know, oh, this is really a big moment. Some players may not have realized just how big this moment was until the Dungeon Master rolled out in the open to show that there's no fudging the dice is going to tell a story, and the players would know either before or after what they need to roll to beat it, or, hey, he needs to roll a 14 or less. And they wait for the dice to stop rolling to see what that result is. The drama is ramped up. The expectations are through the roof. This is a great way, and it brings everybody back in. I love this. I'm going to try to do this more at my table. I don't think I've actually ever done it, but it's a little tool, something small, that you as a Dungeon Master can do to increase the drama and increase the tension. It's awesome. Do it. Thankfully, Wickander and Tyranny succeed and get Taylor back, but not before we see exactly what was happening to Taylor. He was tied up, shackled, hands above his head, over a 9-pointed star, and was having his shadow cut into pieces. No idea what this would have meant for Taylor, but one of the Taylors said you're lucky you didn't see sunrise. So I can just imagine what would happen if you don't have your shadow or your shadow's been cut into pieces. And I'm wondering if Taylor will have any lingering effects from this. Did it do something to him? Is something going to happen later on? And it's going to be a callback to this moment. Will he roll a disadvantage for something? Will he have an ability score or something modified because of this? I can't wait to see what happens with that and how long it takes before we get the throwback to that moment. Sir Julian, played wonderfully by Matt, goes looking for Octus per his father's orders and comes across Thimble, Cadigan, and Valus, and the same person that he saw the night before at the funeral, which is Octus in his disguised self. Thimble tries to fly away from Julian because there's no love lost there, and Julian grabs him. And when he does, Octus uses his real voice, not his disguised self voice. Julian, realizing this, bids the party farewell and walks away but circles back. And in doing so, he hears Octus, Thimble, and Cadigan, along with Valus, talking about Octus himself. Octus decides to go off and go find Julian. The group sends Valus after him to make sure he has some protection. And Octus and Valus catch up to Julian, and they go back to Palazzo Divinos, and Julian gives him to Lady Aranessa. Dungeon Masters, I'm going to ask you to do something that I have issues with myself. Try to mix up your names a bit. In this campaign, we have Yanessa, who is Wikander's grandmother in charge of House Halavar, and we have Aranessa, who is Thiazi's widow. Now, I'm betting the Nessa part of the name probably has something to do with lore. I get it. I've done that in my campaign as well. But if you really expect your players to keep track of who is who, especially if you're running a political intrigue or more socially based game, you're going to end up with Game of Thrones level number of characters. And if you want your players to keep track of who is who, the more different the names are from others, the more likely the players will remember who is who. When you start tying names too closely together in terms of vowels and sounds, etc., your players are going to be confused. I've been confused in these 3 episodes. I'm constantly having to pause and rewind to catch a name, and I'm keeping track of who's who. I think I'm doing pretty well, but because I don't want to Google the names right now. So keep your names as different as you can. Like I said, I have this own fault. The BBG is named Draylen, and Duke's right-hand man, or his right hand is Draymore. So it's Draymore and Draylen. The players can't keep it straight. I have a hard time keeping it straight. So Dungeon Masters, try to be different and unique with your names, but not too unique to where the players can't remember it. Or that they can't turn it into something dirty, which we know they're going to do anyways. Good luck with that one. Back at House, we see Teor, Wikander, Tyranny, Thimble, Cadigan, Hal, and Taisha. Well, once Taisha learns that Octus is with Julian, she turns into a wolf and leaves to find Octus. Once Abria leaves the table, Azune and Murray join, so 8 of the 13 players are all at the table at once. The group dumps everything they have learned to each other, including that House Halavar is not what they seem, but it only turns out Wikander was the only one who didn't suspect that. Thimble wants to go after Casimir. Thimble is mad. Thiazi died. She blames herself for not getting the glyph there. Hal learns that his brother's sword is actually named the Liar's Blade, forged by the Loys. Taisha is a Loy, just for those who, if you forgot, in some long ago war. They didn't specify the war's name, so I'm not sure if it's the Shaper's War or a war before that. The Loys were well-known blacksmiths and weapon forgers, so I'm not sure which war it was for. Many of the group realize they're not safe in the city anymore. Teor owes a life debt to Wikander, so he agrees to remain his protector. We also learn that House Halavar has properties everywhere, including Gormley. The group thinks Casimir sold the items from Thiazi's safe house to the Halavars. I actually think the Halavars hired Casimir to stop this glyph from being placed, and told him to keep and sell everything they find, but it's not exactly clear what's what yet. So it's decided that Cadigan, Thimble, Teor, Wikander, and Tyranny will leave the city to hunt down Casimir. And we have our soldiers' table. I had Teor and Cadigan right. I did say that I was torn on whether Thimble would be part of the soldiers' table or not, but this all makes sense. I had Octus as part of the soldiers' table initially because he wasn't safe in the city, so I figured the soldiers' table was the one that was going to leave the city, and I was right. The remaining tables were hinted at as well, but not exactly finalized, so we're still going to see some differences from what I picked, I think, for the Seekers and the Schemers, but we'll have to wait and see for sure. Before the group leaves, Hal talks to Thimble and gives her bardic inspiration.
As they're about to leave, I catch Thimble by the door, and lo, with reverberation to his voice, he says, "Find him for our brother." And take a bardic inspiration with you as you leave.
I'm gonna say with Thiazi's sword on your back at the threshold of your house, the iron nail of the Loy family overhead, that bardic inspiration that you take in that moment will not diminish no matter any amount of time, and will increase even if you hold on to it as Hal works for the goals set before him here in this city.
DMs, what Brennan does here is wonderful. Just because a rule says something lasts 10 minutes doesn't mean you can't tweak it, especially for a one-time thing. To reward a role-playing moment, especially bardic inspiration, which could be cool for a bard, to be able to give bardic inspiration outside of combat and actually have it last until it's useful. That 10-minute rule kills bardic inspiration being used anywhere outside of combat or an active social or exploration situation, but there could have been a moment an hour before that the bard could have given bardic inspiration. It just wouldn't have lasted. Do something like this anytime you feel like it. Tweak those rules to make them work for you. The rule of cool is awesome, but that also goes for things like bardic inspiration. Give reasons for your bard to give out bardic inspiration and let them last until they're used. You can have them, you can force the players to use it on their first roll, right? So yes, it's going to last longer than 10 minutes, but you must use it on your first roll. Something like that would still allow the bards to give out that inspiration more frequently than they actively do. Speaking of inspiration, don't forget to give your players heroic inspiration. D&D 2024 especially has abilities and feats and subclasses that can earn heroic inspiration every time if they don't have it, or at the start of the combat, or at the start of the day. So, Dungeon Masters, give out those heroic inspirations so that your players will use them and then do great role-play moments, play their strengths and flaws to gain that heroic inspiration back again. Heroic inspiration doesn't get used a lot that I've seen. I keep forgetting it to give it to my players, but they also don't use theirs. So it's also a give and take. So players, if you have heroic inspiration, it's a free reroll of a D20. Use it. And the more you use it, the more your DM is more than likely going to give you it again. We learn a lot in this last part of this episode. Sir Julian, Valus, and Octus arrive at Palazzo Divinos. Octus goes off with Lady Aranessa, who we learn also comes from a family with sorceress ability. We learn that Octus is the 8th child, so maybe his family's sorceress ability was a bit diluted by then. Valus stays behind because she sees a wolf form making their way to her location. Sir Julian goes off with his father. We also learn that House Taconis has tripled their presence in the city. We also learn more about House Royce, which is Lady Aranessa, and House Taconis, as well as the Door to Ferry. The Door to Ferry is one of those little pieces of lore that was dropped in the first episode that I've been wanting to learn more about, and we get our chance here.
Octus, the doors to Ferry closed because the realm of death is so choked with souls that cannot move to an afterlife because we killed the gods. That energy burst into our world and almost struck the heart of Ferry, killing it forever. Your family and my family each have a castle, not in this world. And I don't think many common folk know that. My family has a castle in the Golden Orchard halfway between our world and Ferry, and it is dying. Your family has a castle in death.
It's doing both, honestly. It's getting more powerful, and with every death.
In a great roleplay moment from Matt, we see Sir Julian talking to Valus, and he talks about how he's always overwhelmed. He doesn't like feeling overwhelmed. So this is great. Sir Julian, to everybody else in the world, is this cocksure, arrogant prick. But in this soft little moment, he is able to reveal that that's just an act. He hates being like that. He hates being overwhelmed. I love seeing players do this. I love seeing Matt as a player. This is amazing. This shows you that your players, your characters, while they can be cocky and arrogant, have to have something else too. They can't just be that prick. Don't be that edgelord. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Be a character that has depth. and emotion and feelings and actually cares, and it's just makes a better character overall. You know, those players that are just that one-dimensional, yeah, they're great. You can play, you can have fun playing them. It just, in my opinion, makes it hard in a campaign, especially if you're playing long-term campaigns, say level 1 to 20. That one-dimensional character is not going to be fun at level 14 like it was at level 1. I'm just saying, you're going to have more. And that's what Matt showed here with Sir Julian. He's not just that cocky guy we saw in episode 1. 3 episodes in, and we get a little peek behind the curtain. I love that. And we come to the end of the episode. A lot happens here in the last 2 or 3 minutes. So instead of me describing this to you, let's watch what Brennan does best. This is a longer clip, but it's definitely worth it. Stick around to the end, and we'll talk about it after.
This garden, beyond Julian, is filled with hundreds and hundreds of specters of the restless dead just on the other side of the veil from the living world. Walking out on the steps to the garden, you see General Raymond looks out at you. Julian, I wanted to say that a hand from an invisible figure reaches forward as the invisibility is dropped, and a black-clad member of House Taconis reaches their hand up immaterially through the skin under his jaw, reaches inside his head, and pulls his skull out of his head immaterially. Letting go, it becomes corporeal again, and suddenly the upper half of his spinal cord and skull is out in front of the flesh of his head, and he dies instantly, collapsing to the ground. Upstairs, with a knock on the door, Stone. Aranessa opens for the servant to bring the bedclothes. The door creaks and suddenly stops creaking as a silence spell fills the room. You see 6 black-clad figures wearing Taconis symbols. As their heads rise, you see the vacancy of 6 ghouls, full undead, gazing out at you. And in the midst, you see here your brother, Ethrend, casting a silence spell, holding in his hand a perfectly spherical black stone, wings surrounding it. He looks speaking in silence. No sound travels, but his lips mouth the words, which is enough for the undead that he commands. Put him on the table, open him up, and we'll put the stone where it belongs. And that's all for this episode.
Actually, no.
That's all
Don't
for
turn
this
the camera off.
And that's all for this episode of Critical Role.
Wow. That's how you end an episode. With the dead arriving, Julian's father getting his spine ripped out, and young Octus being led to a table to have the stone inserted. I assume it's the stone of Nightsong, I presume. And put it where it belongs? What does where it belong mean? What the hell does that mean? Octus is my favorite character so far. Will he only last 4 episodes? It appears Casimir either sold or gave the Stone of Nightsong to House Taconis. But are they the ones that orchestrated the attack on a safe house? Or did they just take advantage of Casimir selling things? What a way to end the episode. Always end on a cliffhanger to get your players counting the days till the next session. And I know I've said this in previous episodes, but Brennan handles the transitions between groups and moving party members, players on and off the tables so damn well. That's hard to do when you're at a table of 5 trying to keep 2 people in one area of the city and the other 3 doing something else together, let alone 13 players bouncing in and out constantly for 5 hours. That is a lot of work on his part, and I'm just going to keep saying this. Watching him teaches you how to handle split parties easily. If he can do it for 13 players, you can easily do it for 4 or 5. I'm still in shock at the end of that episode. I'm very happy to see that we are finally getting other parts of D&D besides just the social pillar. That's all these first couple episodes have been, basically the social pillar. We've avoided combat a couple of times, but I'm happy to see the other parts. And I can't say enough. Wow, I'm sorry. I just can't say enough about that ending. It had me shocked. What will happen to Octus? Will the soldiers' table find Casimir and Sid? What other surprises does Brennan have in store for us? More to come as Critical Role Campaign 4 continues. What did you think of this episode? What do you think of the composition of the soldiers' table? Let us know in the comments. May your gold be plentiful, your games well played, and your tables full of laughter.